What do you do when you're starting an enterprise? I'm here with someone who, by looking at your planning steps and planning phase, can determine whether your entrepreneurship journey is bound to succeed or fail. She's no seer. She's someone who is woven by every bit of what defines entrepreneurship. Greetings everyone. Hello amazing people. Hope you all are doing fantastic. You're welcome to another exciting episode of Get Impeccable with me, your host Precious Andine, and I am so thrilled to have you all go to your screens to enjoy another splendid episode of Get Impeccable. In this episode, we are having someone phenomenal. She is a professor of entrepreneurship here at USIU Africa. I am so honored to have you here, dear Professor Damari. Please introduce yourself. We are so honored to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Precious. I'm also very excited to be here and to be part of this process. My name is Professor Damari Sekalie. I am a professor of entrepreneurship and management education. I've done this for the last 20 years at USIU Africa.
Wow, last 20 years tells you how much experience she has, and we are so thrilled again to have you here. So that's beautifully said, and we can't wait to get the juicy experience we are going to be learning. So in this particular episode, we'll be discussing about what do you need to know about starting an enterprise. So dear Prof, thank you again. We're going to have two phases of our conversation.
Yes.
So the first phase, we're just going to have some trivial discussions. I'll ask you a couple of questions, maybe 5, around there. Then we're now going to move now to the crux of the matter. Okay. Should we dive in?
Let's do so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lovely. So the first question, if entrepreneurship was a song, what would it be for you?
My journey for life.
Your journey for life.
Yes,
okay.
That's my own composition.
Oh, your composition.
Yes.
Wow, that's so lovely.
Yeah.
Guys, she has a composition. Tells you how much she loves entrepreneurship. Yeah. Okay, so what's one African food you would use as a global business? Like you would make it to be a global business?
Nyama choma.
Nyama choma. What's that?
First, nyama choma. Second, nyama choma. Third, nyama choma.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I know what nyama choma is.
Nyama choma is roast meat. Let me put it that way.
Okay.
Because we roast beef, we roast chicken, we roast mutton, we roast, any kind of meat you can think of, whether we are thinking red meat or a white meat. So when it's grilled, choma is a Kiswahili word, a Kenyan Kiswahili word that refers to roasting. Yeah, so you just put it on the fire and you let it burn as you turn it over. So it becomes it's a delicacy. It's a delicacy, yes.
So that can really go global and make money. Yes. Lovely. So if you had to pitch your first business idea in 30 seconds, what would it be?
I find it very exciting. Pitching is one thing I've always looked forward to because I'm also not just a professor, I am an entrepreneur. So anytime I have an opportunity to pitch, it's very exciting and I make myself ready to win the opportunity.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you too. So what's one thing you wish you knew before starting your first venture?
I'll talk about falling in love with the customer's pain. Because what has happened in the past, I always came up with a product and went to find a buyer, and that can take a different trajectory altogether. So once you know there's someone manifesting some pain, lacking something, struggling with something, and you think through their pain, and you together think in terms of what the solution could be, it's very lovely. It makes it very easy for you to walk this journey of entrepreneurship.
Lovely. So thinking more about the customer's pain.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
So last but not the least, what's the one book you can read over and over and over tirelessly?
The Lean Startup.
The Lean Startup.
Yes, by Price.
All right.
That's one book I can read 1,000,001 times without getting tired, because it gives me insights on how to get started with the little I have access to, not to be wasteful, and just be sure that I'm doing the right thing with the right people for the right people at the right time. Yes.
I love this rapid fire section. It's so lovely. It's so awesome. So we're now going to dive into the crux of the matter. The very important question of what aspects should we consider when starting an effective as a keyword, enterprise. So I'll just ask you a couple of questions to drive this main discussion. So what are the top 5 aspects of early entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs that they must consider when starting an enterprise?
One is their problem. And who has this problem? And why is it a problem in the first place? So that whole idea of problem validation is critical for you before you can begin to do anything. In other words, you will need to know who is manifesting some kind of challenge, some kind of problem that I can address. Without that, then you will be the traditional business person who brings a product to the market and then begins to find a buyer. But if you begin from the point of who requires what, and therefore what are their needs, that is the best way to start. Secondly, I would want to find out, even though I've spoken to a few people who have told me, yes, they are struggling and they would like a solution, I need to understand, is there really demand for this? So is there, what's the market size? Who is the very customer? What are their lifestyles? What can they afford to pay? What do they do for a living? So what are their occupations and so on? Otherwise, then you find yourself having to spend a lot of money, a lot of time, and what you're bringing to the market cannot be bought. So once I establish what the problem is and that it is worth my time, then I need to know, do I have the customer? Who is the customer? What is the size of this customer that I am looking for? Then related to that, I would want to also know what are the alternatives, because this may not be the first time people are experiencing the problem. They have been with it for a while, and they have had their own ways of addressing that problem. So I want to find out, what have they been doing about it? So what are the alternatives they are turning to address the problem they are having? Related to that whole idea of the alternatives, there is the competition, because these people who are offering what they are turning to as an alternative are your competitors. If they are not buying from you once you bring a solution, they will be buying from them. So I want to do a market research. I want to analyze the competition. I want to look at the value chain and see what are the points that these particular competitors are not addressing. And that gives me an edge, because then I begin to design my solution in relation to the gaps I'm already seeing in the market. And that is what will give me what I would call a competitive edge. I would also want to think in terms of resource mobilization. And resource mobilization here is twofold. I'm thinking in terms of the people who are as passionate as I am, the people who have the skill, the people who, would want to work with me. So what's their experience level? What are their educational levels? Are they available? Can I afford them? So once I have considered all that, then it helps me to make the decision. I'm going to hire maybe 2 or 3 people who have this kind of skills, who have this kind of talent, who have this kind of experience. And I know if we work together, then the business will be able to afford them and can pay them even much more later. Then I want to think in terms of materials. What kind of materials do I require? And are they available as well? So do I, for example, have the space in which to do all this? So am I renting the space? Am I buying the space? Or do I already own the space? Is it something I can do from my own house? Those are things you have to consider. Other than the space, we have the materials or the equipment that you will need to work with. So there are cases where instead of buying, you can lease. Okay? Instead of buying, you can make your own. You can improvise, because everything doesn't have to be new from the beginning. And all this has to come from your understanding of the problem and the kind of solution that you are designing.
Wow.
So you will need to ask yourself, do I have what it takes to provide this kind of solution? And lastly, I would think in terms of, is there any return on investment? Because once you get started, it preoccupies you and takes you all wholesome. So you will find yourself spending all your time at this particular idea or opportunity. So what's the return? Not what is in it for me. What are the kinds of returns that I would get that would be fulfilling to me and fulfilling to my customers as well?
Powerful.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Five key aspects early entrepreneurs must consider: the problem, the market, the alternative, resource mobilization, and the return. What's your return? So powerful. You mentioned, you really emphasized on the market. So how can young African entrepreneurs effectively do research to comprehensively understand their market?
There are many options, and there are many alternatives they have. I would have a problem with a young African who sits in their home or in a room somewhere and designs a problem. You have to get out and speak to people. Get the ideas from the people who have the need, so that what you are designing, there is an iterative process with the customer for whom you are designing. So conducting interviews, and this could mean you're having one-on-one with people, you are holding conversations around a table, what we would call a focus group discussion, or you are sending out questionnaires. You can distribute them depending on where you are and what the opportunity is all about. Look for those places where a majority of people who manifest the need are found, and you can approach them. But with the questionnaires, we'll also have to be careful to know that these people are literate. They can read and write for themselves.
Exactly.
So you might want to have an assistant who can interpret or put the question simply to them and handwrite or record the answers. The digital space now, and it would be important for them to leverage the existing technology. I believe currently a majority of people have at least a phone of some kind. It may not be a smartphone, but leveraging that kind of technology and therefore throwing questions here and there through social media, like the WhatsApp group. Most people, belong to a WhatsApp group of some kind. That would really be important for them. Just going out and showing people, after you have designed some kind of solution, talking to them and testing it with the people, getting the feedback from them, that in itself also helps you to understand, because the feedback they give you will be able to tell you whether you really understand their need or you don't. So remember, in entrepreneurship, you are not addressing your problem.
Exactly.
That's the mistake young people make. And they put money first. Money is really secondary in this particular process. So you have to talk to the right people at the right time, and you can use the different options that I have talked about. So that enables you to understand the market, and you must ask the right questions, because it also depends on what you're talking about. If you're chatting over other things that are not related to the kind of need the people have, then that's a non-starter. You won't get far.
Powerful, exactly. So when I was listening to what you were saying and looking at most African entrepreneurs, I see that as other than the aspect of being backward in research capacity, because you mentioned most entrepreneurs in Africa are more of what will give me money than what problem are people facing, and how can I put my capacity in that phase. So, and I also thought that entrepreneurs in Africa also face the issue of limited funding, limited financial capacity. So how can, let me say hypothetically, Precious as a young entrepreneur use the limited funding or financial support she has to effectively start an enterprise, and how much does money really play in this entire entrepreneurship starter?
Thank you. I'm glad you've asked that question, because many young people or would-be entrepreneurs, we censor ourselves and limit ourselves because of funding. Funding is only one element. Of course, after you have thought through the kind of solution, it brings to your mind a general aspect of how much money you would require to get started. And when we see probably the millions that are required, many people take a back seat and they think, that's not for me. But in that vein of limited funding, what I advise people is, one, to scale the idea down. Okay? Start small. Not as big as the idea sounds. Start very small. That's one advice I give. The second advice is rely on your own skills. What skill sets do you have? What's your creativity like? How can I design this solution in a simple way without incurring so much, costs, and still make it work for the people whose problem I am solving? Look inwardly. Who are the people you know? What are your networks like? Who are my friends? And how can my friends help? Convince them. When you are sharing the opportunity with them, you need to be as open to them, so that they are not coming on board with high expectations in terms of pay or wage. But if they are as passionate as you are about this whole idea, if they are convinced that there is potential in the opportunity, they will come on board. And together, you begin to share experience, you begin to share the skill sets you have. And it may come to even, giving some money. So what would have seemed as a heavy requirement on you in terms of funding, if you come with friends together from your network, and you agree that we need so much money, and each one agrees to give in a certain amount, you've moved a step rather than getting stuck because you can't have access to the money. And of course, we have family members we rely on as well. So does your father believe in you? Does your mother believe in you? Are they willing to give you some money to get started? I know for sure, which is a problem I faced myself when I was starting and I was still in school. I used to do crocheting, you know, and I would tell my mom, give me some money to buy some wool, because of course she would love it, you know, she loved what I was doing, but then she would be like, school and nothing else but school. So she didn't see, she was afraid for me that if I went into crocheting and people liked and bought, then that would be at the expense of my school. So parents sometimes are very apprehensive, but it depends on how you talk to them, how you convince them to understand that this is an opportunity, it means so much to you and other people, and that they can put their money to it. So a lot of the young Africans will feel, well, I can't afford what is required. If I think in terms of a bank loan, I will not get the loan. But I really advise against starting with a loan. You need to start the business first, see how it is playing in the market, and then think in terms of maybe a loan for expansion once you are certain that the business can do well.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you.
It goes well with the saying that a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a
first step. A single first step.
That's so true.
Yes.
And this, when you spoke about money contributions, it just reminded me or brought me to reflect on the risk that young entrepreneurs can actually take when starting up a venture. So what do you think are the risks potential entrepreneurs or young entrepreneurs might face, and how can they navigate through this risk or build resilience into their entire entrepreneurship journey?
Thank you. One major risk is the age. If you are young, who believes in you? So that's something you have to anticipate. I've seen young people complaining that every time they are talking to people, they are dismissed because they are young. So age becomes one of those risks that you have to anticipate it. When I'm starting, how then do I articulate myself in a convincing manner? So that my age doesn't feature or doesn't come in. Two, we have general risks or disruptions, and disease outbreak is one of those. We don't anticipate that it's gonna happen at this time, but it just happened. So we've come from a COVID-19 disruption. It just happened. Nobody foresaw it. So anticipating disruptions like disease outbreak, anticipating disruptions like climate change, which we are going through now, anticipating issues like instability, political instability, or war outbreaks, and so on. You know, those seem far-fetched, but they are potential risks that one has to think about. Otherwise, coming closer home and to the business itself, then one has to think in terms of the regulatory changes, political changes, because sometimes with new political leadership, the incoming may come up with their own regulations, and that is likely to affect your business. The other thing would be to think in terms of technology. Currently in the digital space, we are thinking or seeing a lot of cyber attacks. So one has to anticipate, you know, what kind of attacks am I likely to
experience.
Yeah, and prepare themselves in advance. Then there is the failure and the breakdown of the equipment, and therefore the question, what if, should be rife on the entrepreneur's mind. They should always think in terms of what would be my alternative. If this happens, then how do I go about it? Money. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you are likely to run out of money.
Yeah.
The people you are working with are likely to leave and go. So you need to understand if they walk up and say, I'm not coming to work, what do I do? Now, what does all that point to? Anticipating those kinds of problems or risks, you begin to inbuild this from the word go. When you are designing the solution, those questions of what if, must remain alive on your mind. So if I have employees who are going to wake up one morning and decide they are going it alone, they have now had the experience, what do I do? Do I run after them and stop them? No, you have to inbuild that. So at the point of hiring them, what kinds of agreements are you going to have? What sanctions as far as the violation of those agreements are concerned? So for how long should they work for you before they decide they are going it alone? Okay. What about the employee who comes in and was so focused, was so passionate, and then all of a sudden they have an attitude change, they are not pulling up their socks? What do you do? So you need to think in terms of such issues and begin to tell yourself, if an employee decides not to perform, not to pull up their socks, this will not bring my business down. This will be the option I have, and this will be the way I'll go. So in building resilience from the beginning becomes a critical element. There would be natural calamities. Now, some of them may not really affect your area as they may affect other places. The performance of the economy, those are things you still have to think about, because whether it is happening in Europe, in America, or wherever, it will get down to Africa. So it has effects. You think in terms of that. And so thinking in terms of diversifying. And that means as you begin to design the solution, you are already involving the persons with the need you are addressing, so that you are working together and you are saying, if A was to happen, then we would turn to B.
As you were speaking about diversification of your inputs to ensure resilience and build resilience in your market, I'm also wondering how mentorship, as young entrepreneurs, individuals watching this, how can mentorship influence your entrepreneurship trajectory? And
I'm one person who believes man is not an island. We have grown on other people's shoulders, and we need to allow others to grow on our shoulders as well. So mentoring becomes a very critical element for success. And in this regard, for example, because this opportunity is going to take all your time, you need emotional support.
Exactly.
You need skill development, for example. You need someone to show you how to do certain things, how to answer some questions that may come to your way, how to talk to people in a persuasive manner. All that is about skill development. And you can look inwardly among your friends. Who are those who are so passionate about what you are doing? And you begin to work together, discuss together, bounce the ideas on each other. So that in itself is mentoring. But you can also look for successful entrepreneurs who then maybe you are role models, people you admire and you want to be like them. Talk with them and be open up to say, look, I need help. One of the challenges we have is the failure to admit that we need help. And once you are open to yourself and you're true to yourself that you need some kind of help, that's where mentoring comes in, because that is what makes you now begin to talk to other people, to find like-minded people that you can work with, to find people you can confide in, people you can share information freely with without feeling some kind of fear that I'm going to lose this particular opportunity. So you need a network, you need, mentoring gives guidance. So you really can't do without it.
You can't do without mentorship, and I think a lot of people right here want you as their mentor, definitely. So as we wrap up and close the conversation, I would want to know how do we as young entrepreneurs ensure that our enterprises are not just profitable in essence, but are also sustainable and impactful as a whole.
Okay, thank you. Now, you built in sustainability from the word go. So at that point, you are validating the problem. Are you designing a one-off solution, or you want to design a solution that is long-lasting?
Exactly.
So it starts at that particular point. When you are bringing on board people to work with or people to work for you, am I bringing in people that are going to work for only 1 month and off they go? Or I want people to grow with this business? That is an aspect of sustainability. So what mechanisms do you put in place? What forms of agreement do you put in place to have these people working with you and working for you for sustainability rather than making it a one-off thing? You think in terms of the customers, because entrepreneurship is about satisfying others, not yourself. So as you design the solution, as you bring it to the market to them, how responsive are you to their needs? When are their needs changing? What kind of feedback are you collecting from your customers? Because that is what you plow back into the solution, and that is what makes the business not only profitable but also sustainable, because you've shown a keen interest. You are constantly getting feedback and information from your customers, and you're using it to satisfy them even more. Thank you.
Powerful. Oh my God. Dear viewers, dear audience, if you're watching this episode and you are thinking of starting an enterprise, what's one question you have for Professor Damari? Please drop it in the comment section. This session has been truly, I'm still to find the word to describe this information-packed, insightful episode. I'm going to use the word I really use, and that's impeccable. I use the word impeccable to define how perfect this has been and truly inspiring. And I'm so grateful to you, dear Prof. Thank you so much for making our time to be here again. Usually we do parting words for our audience, where you as the guests give them this sparking energy, this parting words that will keep them thinking, keep them empowered to keep on going on to improve in their journey. Yeah, take over.
For me, to the young people, your future is now. It is not tomorrow. Yeah? And be the change you would like to see.
Exactly.
So what are the problems that you can provide a solution to? These are questions you need to ask yourselves. Can I be part of the change? can I touch other people's lives? Can I make the difference people are looking for? So, who are you and what do you want to become tomorrow? Those are questions you need to ask yourself and begin to provide answers to them. If you wait for someone else to come and do it for you, it will never happen. But if you take the initiative because you have what it takes, you will do it. Thank you.
Phenomenal, phenomenal, dear bro, phenomenal. Thank you so much for blessing us with your presence, for giving us this great, exquisite TED Talk experience. It's been really elite and I'm so grateful. Can I get a phenomenal handshake?
Please do.
Oh
Thank
God.
you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Bro. Thank you. I'm really grateful. Like, I am so thrilled. I'm so happy because not only have I learned, but I know everyone watching has grabbed something really new and something transformative. And that's what we're here for. Thank you so much again, Prof. We are so grateful. And dear people, if you're watching this episode and you're yet to subscribe, what are you waiting for? Join the family of growth, grit, and greatness. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for joining me. Please do like, please do share, please do subscribe. Please do drop a comment, as I said earlier on. If you have a question as a young entrepreneur regarding anything regarding entrepreneurship for Professor Damiri, please drop in the comment section and I'm going to relay her feedback to you. All right, amazing people. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prof, again.
And thank you too for
Bye.
the opportunity.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.